Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and beasts alike, to the Far Cry New Dawn review. Okay, so first things first, completed this game in just under 40 hours on the PC via Uplay, and I do recommend that you play Far Cry 5 before playing Far Cry New Dawn. It will make a better experience for you. There are characters from the previous in there. Certain things will not make sense otherwise. This is most definitely a sequel. You need to let me turn it down a bit. You need to play Far Cry 5 first. In saying that, let's get to the good, the bad, the ugly, and then the score, shall we? First up, the good. Okay, so the good things, I would say one of the good things of this game is it's a smaller map than Far Cry 5. I should also say this is a 99.9% spoiler-free by my estimation, so it should be fine. Gameplay you're watching is, if you're watching at all, is just the first beginning part. So, you know, literally the first 5-10 minutes, depending how long the review lasts. The good is the smaller map. It's a much smaller map than Far Cry 5, and it's a good thing because it's a lot more focused and a lot more lean for it, and something that Ubisoft suffers from having a big map with too much of the same thing. Less able for them to do that because the map is smaller. Good. Next thing is the expeditions. I don't want to go into too much details again because, you know, some surprises, but they're fun. You'll have fun with those, change up your environment, and the rewards are useful for the majority of the game. At least the first go around anyway. So those are a really cool addition. This gives you a nice little breather in between the main environment. Next thing is the loot and weapon system. It's a lot better than 5. It works better. I think there's potentially less weapons maybe, but it doesn't certainly feel like it. You just get a grade of weapons, basically like a kind of a 3-4 tier system, and they look and fit the world exactly in terms of the post-apocalyptic world that you're in. They look like they're strewn together with duct tape, MacGyver style. So yeah, that's a good thing as well. And it just works with loot. The loot works with it. You don't end up full all the time with nothing to collect. In 5, there's a lot of collecting loot, and you couldn't collect half of it because you were full all the time. And this system, the system that they use is a resources system. Because it's a post-apocalyptic environment, resources are scarce, and therefore you can carry a lot of it. And so you never really find yourself not being able to open or partake in about 80% of the loot. Maybe 20% of it you can't collect here and there in a room or whatever. You can collect pretty much all of it, so it's lovely. Next thing is the color palette of this game is fantastic. Much like many people have said with Rage 2, kind of like, is it? Yeah, I think it was saying that Far Cry New Dawn either stole it or the other way around, I don't know. But it's an interesting look for a post-apocalyptic environment. If you're used to Fallout and such, this is a different color palette from those games, and this looks a lot better for it. Very colorful game. Probably one of the most colorful Far Cry games or video games, full stop. Very varied environments, and the expeditions helps with that. Another good point is some of the companions are really good. They got some really good lines. There's some El Clasicos there. So again, you want to be playing Far Cry 5 first, or at least played some of the previous ones to enjoy some of the El Clasicos coming back in there. And as ever, shooting mechanics are good. Dialogue and exploration loops are good for the game overall. That's all of the good, and that's pretty much what you'd probably expect from most of those things you probably expect. So yeah, let's move on to the bad. So there's still a bit of feature creep in this game. There's still a bit of more fat than I would like. There's a 4-tier system, or 3 or 4-tier system, and that system's quite confusing because it tells you that you've got X amount of things to do, but really you don't have that much things to do because it's counting as if you do those things 3 times over. So for instance, then outposts are, if you complete the outpost 3 times, that's considered as 1 outpost in the statistics. If you complete it once, it's considered once, obviously, and therefore when you've finished all the outposts, let's say, for example, let's say that there's 20 outposts. I can't remember how many there is. Leave that as a surprise for you, I guess. But let's say there's 20. They would count it as 60. Very confusing. And yeah, that's still a little bit of fat. That's unnecessary, really. But it does have a usefulness to it to a degree. So, you know, but it's still a little bit of a bad thing, especially if you're looking for achievements or you just want to kind of like have ticks, like to have ticks everywhere, in a passive-aggressive manner like myself. I'm kind of a passive-aggressive completionist, but there you go. Another bad thing is story. Story's okay. It's a little bit thin, really, in a way. It's just a reason for you to do the shit you do, and some characters you would like to hear more about, whatever, you don't really get as much meat on the bone. So yeah, you know, it's okay. Better than 5 in a way. But you know, 5 is necessary for this story in a way. So that's why I say it's very important you make sure you play 5 first before you check this out. And also the season pass content in 5 is really good as well. At least 2 of the 3 DLCs in that game is really good. Anyway, another bad point is the repeating dialogue combined with a lack of reaction to certain events. I've literally read off what I've written there, what I wrote previous. So yeah, you know, certain things happen, you talk to the people, your companions or people in the environment, and they kind of act like they don't know what you're talking about. An open world thing, I guess. It's an open world problem. You know, in a linear game, typically you'd talk to someone and they would know exactly what happened previously, and they would talk about it. In Far Cry, New Dawn, and many Far Cry, it's not unusual to do something you think is really cool, whether it be a side thing even as well, like an expedition or what have you. And no, there's a thing where the immersion's slightly broken because they don't seem to react to it. They don't seem to know about it. They have no knowledge of it. So it's kind of like, you know. So yeah, that's the thing. Vehicles are bad. Not because they don't operate right, whatever, but because basically it doesn't really work in this game for some reason. Once you get your upgrade for a certain thing, vehicles become completely useless, at least for me anyway. I think most people are going to find in this game that they're not going to use vehicles very much, and it's going to be even less so than Far Cry 5 for some reason. It's kind of strange. I don't know what they've done with that system, but it's just there seems to rarely be as much vehicles about waiting for you to take as well. It just seems to be more cumbersome to take them for some reason. I don't know. It might also be because there's more reason to be doing things in the environment in a way, so I don't know, it kind of pays for itself in a way, and then costs itself as well at the same time. Last bad point is, you know, a couple of the guns for hires are a bit underwhelming, and one is especially bad. I'm not gonna say, but guns for hire essentially now is your companions. I don't think they were called that in 5, or maybe they were, but they're your core companions essentially. So in Far Cry 5, you have I think it was something like was it 8 or 10? This one you have a little less of them. Some are really good, but there's some that are like maybe 1 or 2 that are really underwhelming, especially a Pacific one, but I'm not going to say. You have to discover that for yourself unless you watch the playthrough of this series, which should be linked in the description as well. So I highly recommend you watch if you're not going to be playing this game, or if you have already played and you want some entertainment and frolics with your boy. Okay, now the ugly. Only 1 point really, and my main thing, really, the ugly of this game is the lack of things linking together. So it's kind of touched upon this before with the dialogue, where you talk to people and they don't really acknowledge what's happened. They don't know what's going on or what have you. And I feel that's like an open world issue. It's something that you wouldn't have in, say, a Metro game. You know, Metro, any of those games, narrative-wise, it's usually on point, right? There's everybody's on par with what's going on. I haven't played Exodus yet, so I think that's more open world. But you know, typically open world games suffer from that, and you do an activity as a side activity, but the side activities start to feel, after doing it for the 15th time, it starts to feel kind of pointless, especially if you've already got all of resources or skill points that you need, especially with the characters of the world not really acknowledging it or making a big deal about it, or, you know, acknowledging it in a way that makes it feel meaningful, even if it's not actually meaningful, you know, in practical terms. This is something that, like, The Witcher 3 does really well, where the side things are either very easy to do and allow you to kind of showcase some of the new things that you've gained, or new skills that you've gained, or upgraded skills that you've got, or they are tightly entwined with the story in a way that might not be obvious to you until much later. That doesn't happen in Far Cry, in any Far Cry game really, and especially not in New Dawn or any of them. That's the biggest weak point of it. It's the open world syndrome, in that sometimes you kind of can feel the burn because you're like, kind of like, characters just are not responding the way you want them to. Certain things, certain choices with how the companions work and where they dwell and so forth as well add to that, or their lack of dwelling. It's kind of, little things like that breaks the immersion. Anyway, enough of that. This is running a lot longer than I expected. We're in 10 minutes now, according to my time here. So what's the score then? Finally, the score. Well, I feel that while I recommend that you play Far Cry 5 first, I think that my Far Cry 5 score is between 7 and 7.5. I don't have a video for that yet. I don't know if I'll do it retrospectively. I only started doing the video reviews from Operencia, The Stolen Sun. So my rating for Far Cry 5 would be between 7 and 7.5, but for Far Cry New Dawn, the score is at 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10.
It's pretty good. Better than Far Cry 5 in my opinion. Mainly because it's smaller. Lots of Far Cry 5's quests were like kind of like just dragging, and then the reward was crap. Very underwhelming. Didn't pay off. Busy work quests like find all my baseball cards, whatever it was, and then you get nothing for it. Some quests in Far Cry 5 you do something and you get weapon. Other times you get nothing. Or and then the ending of Far Cry 5 for me was just awful. At the same token though, it needs that horrible ending for this one to kind of make sense, but this one could have been better if it wasn't for the things that I already spoken about. But it's a really fun game. Even the grindy stuff isn't too grindy as much as previous Ubisoft games, because it's marketed as not a full game. In saying that though, I still managed to get 40 hours roughly out of it. So I would say it's pretty good for the price, especially if you get it on a discount as well. But I definitely recommend, if you like Far Cry 5, I definitely recommend this game. You may like it even more so. I know I did. And if you didn't like Far Cry 5, I don't think this is going to change your mind. If you don't like Far Cry, it's definitely isn't going to change your mind. But if you liked Far Cry 5 enough, if it was like above a 5 for you, about an average or above, which would be 5 or above, right? Then I don't see why you would hate this game. But I think this is better because, like I said, it's smaller, concise, and Ubisoft are not allowed to do as much filler crap as they usually do because the map is just not big enough for it. So they have to be much more concise, and they've got a resource system that works better than the monetary system of previous. The animals are more. Oh yeah, also animals. That probably should be a good in the goods category. The animals are better in this game as well. They're a lot more. I don't want to go into any kind of spoiler type things, or I would class as spoilers, but essentially, animals are back in Far Cry New Dawn. In Far Cry 5, they were pretty much fodder. You could shoot a bear with a pea shooter, literally, and it will just drop dead. You could use your slingshot with it, and it would be drop dead in like 2 shots. In this game, some animals are going to mess you up proper. Like in our playthrough, Carmina gets absolutely owned by a boar. She goes absolutely flying. So the animals are back in Far Cry New Dawn, and they were disrespected in Far Cry 5. So that's another good as well. So yeah, that's my review. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree? What's your opinion of the game? Have you played it? Is this going to make you want to purchase it now? If you haven't already, was you holding out? Don't forget to leave a like if you liked the review. Yeah, if you didn't like it, you can hit the dislike button twice. Don't forget to share with somebody. Sharing is caring. And also, I don't know, why not check out the Patreon as well if you want to chuck some dollar my way and help me do the stuff even more better than we already do. Thank you much for watching. Appreciate your time, and especially appreciate your support as well if you watched the walkthrough, playthrough, blind playthrough thingamajiggy. That's also linked in there. Really appreciate you. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next review, which I'm going to do a review for Zelda now because I've finished that one a few days ago. I'm trying to be consistent with doing video reviews for all of our games that we complete since Operencia, so that'll probably be the next review. But thank you though, and I will catch you in the near future hopefully.